Alright, I'm gonna talk about AutoCAD 3D in this videos series. I'm gonna explain how to use AutoCAD 3D for producing 3D figures that can be used for research purposes. So we can access AutoCAD application and we will start the normal AutoCAD drawing 2D one, and we can switch back to this is the AutoCAD 2D interface. We can see we have the drawing tools for 2D drafting. We can change this workspace into 3D modeling or 3D basics. I prefer to use 3D modeling, which gives all options for 3D modeling that can be used. If we can't find the workspace menu or the drop menu here, we can use this arrow to get another drop menu, which will give you the workspace here. So if you select the workspace, it will show you this. Then you can switch between AutoCAD 2D and AutoCAD 3D. So as we can see here, this is the regular AutoCAD drawing, new one, and we can start establishing the model that we want to do. But before going into modeling, let's explain some basics about AutoCAD 3D so we can get familiar before proceeding with our first model. So the AutoCAD 3D menu consists of many ribbons. We can start by explaining the home menu. As we can see here, we have the tools to establishing the 3D models, and we have the commands to produce 3D based on 2D drawings. For example, if we have rectangular or square figure, we can convert that into 3D model by using extrude. We have other options like sweep or revolve, which can develop like complicated shapes. Mainly in research, we use like the basic one, which is extruding. And here we have the normal draw menu that we can use as usual usage of AutoCAD 2D. And we have some solid editing like merging two objects, splitting, and separating two different objects. I mean, these tools are going to be used once we start establishing our first model. And here we need to talk about the coordinates. So this drop menu allows you to select at which face are you working. So if you are working at the top of your model, you are going to select this one, which will convert the top of your model as 2D drawing, so you can do 2D drawings on the top of your model. And you can select any other direction, so you can work as if you have a 2D drawing on your 3D model. So normally I start with world, which is general one. But when we want to do some commands, 2D commands, we would switch to the right position that we want to draw on our model. And here we have the view options. For example, normally we work with 2D wireframe, and then we can switch to other view options in order to make our 3D model like visible, or we can see it with colors and how it will look like before like taking a snapshot or printing that. It allows for having better visualization by using different options. We will test or examine all of them once we establish our first model. And here we have the layers options as usual AutoCAD 2D. Those are the main points that we will use. Even we have so many different options that can allow us for like complicated AutoCAD 3D modeling. Mainly, I'm gonna explain the basics, which will be enough to produce a 3D model. So I'm gonna start with a very basic shape that we can draw using AutoCAD 3D. So let's assume we have this I-beam, which I can draw in AutoCAD using different options. I'm gonna start with the most basic option that I can establish such 3D model. So first thing, I'm gonna draw like a normal AutoCAD 2D drawing. Let's assume we have this I-beam with a depth of 30 inches and a width of 10 inches. So this is our model, but I would prefer to move it to the origin, which is 0, 0, 0. I moved it with the command of move. As I can see, I can also rotate it by using rotation command RO. And I'm gonna click on this option to make it orthogonal, which is F8 shortcut, which allow me to rotate stuff into 90 degrees. I'm gonna move it again to make it at the origin, 0, 0, 0. So this is my I-beam. I can expand it. Let's make it 15 millimeters in width. If I check 15 millimeters, 15 inches by 30 inches. So this will be the dimensions of my I-beam. Let's assume the flange width to be ½ inch. So I'm gonna offset this into ½ inch. Let's make it 1 inch to make it more clear. So this is gonna be our flange. So how can I do that? I'm gonna connect these corners like this. And again, I'm gonna connect this to this. And I will delete those sides. I don't need them now. But I need to draw the web. I'll connect a line. And let's assume the web to be 0.8 inches, which is gonna be offset 0.4 both sides. So this is the web. But assuming that we want to do the fillet, as we can see here, we have a fillet, a radius here, assuming this radius to be 1 inch. So I'm going to select the command F, which is fillet. I'm going to select this and this, but the radius must be selected first. So I can select radius from here and make it 1 inch. Let's try 1 inch. Yeah, that works perfectly. I'm going to select this and this. This and this, this and this. So this is my first I-beam. I'm gonna select it and copy it to have two versions. I'm gonna do this model. The easy way to do this this model by drawing the 2D cross section and then extrude it into 3D. One thing I want to do before extruding this, I'm gonna select all lines and then I'm gonna select joining. So I'm gonna join all parts of this 2D drawing to make it as one unit. As we can see now, it's one unit. After that, let me move it back to the origin. I wanna just keep the drawing at the origin. So this is the 2D drawing. In order to make our drawing neat and clean, I'm gonna establish new layers. So this layer is gonna be called I-beams, or I'm gonna call it steel. To make it clear, I'm gonna differentiate the color by selecting, let's say, the red beams, as usually they paint the steel parts by red paint. So this is the steel I-beam, as we can see. After I establish the 2D section, I'm gonna switch into the home view, which is this one. I'm not gonna work on the top anymore. No, I wanna select the home. As we can see, the isometric view, when I select the home view, as you can see here, you can select from this cube, which is the view cube. If you are missing this cube, you can just simply go to view and then view cube. It will come back to you. As we can see, it can disappear and then it can come back. And here also you can see the coordinate system directions, XYZ. So now I have the 2D drawing. I can extrude that 2D drawing into 3D model by using extrusion. So I'm gonna select extrude, or I can always type the commands like typing on the command bar here, extrude, and select, if you don't want to switch or jump between the menus. So when I select this I-beam, I just see When I select extrude, then I have to select a 2D object. I selected this. Then I will click enter. Then I have to move upward or downward by the distance that I want to extrude this element. So let's assume the length of this beam is 360 inches. I'm going to select 360 inches. As we can see, it's extruded 360 inches, but downward. I can switch it into upward by just moving. If we can see, there is a triangle here that we can grab this element or this 3D model upward and downward. And we can also change, as we can see, we can change the extrusion length to whatever we want. But I'm going to switch it back to the upward direction. And from here, I'm going to change it again to 360. So this is our I-beam now, but it's in different layer. No, let's bring it back to the steel layer. So now I established our first beam. Now I can copy this I-beam. I can also edit this shape, but this is the first step to establish our 3D model. So now I will do some operations on this 3D model. I'm going to start with one very basic or very important command that can allow me to do like some editing features on this 3D model. Let's talk about the slice command. So let's assume this I-beam is nice, but I want to cut this I-beam, for example, into 45 degrees. How can I do that? I mean, I need to do a cut, for example, this cut. So it's going to be cut into 45 degrees. How can I do that before drawing this line? No. Let's look at this. This is the front. When you look at your 3D model, you have also to look at this cube. So this is the top of your model. This is the front side. So let's say I'm going to work on the front side. I'm going to select the front from here. So this is my front side. When I draw a line like this, let's say this is the line that I want to slice on this beam, slice the beam based on this line. First thing I need to make this line like whatever the length, doesn't matter to us, but I need to make it 45 degrees. So I'm going to select this line and then I'm going to rotate it, RO, which is rotation command, and then select the element, then one more enter, and then you will select the point, a point into this line. What is the angle that you want? 45 degrees, which is this 45 degrees. Now I can simply move the line from any end to the corner of the beam. As we can see, now the line is 45 degrees. How can we make sure that it's 45 degrees? We can go to annotate, then we select the angles. We are going to select this line, and the angle between them must be 45 degrees. So now I'm really sure that the line is 45 degrees slanted, and I can just simply slice this beam. So how can we slice the beam? By simply selecting, I'm not sure where I can find the slice, but yeah, it's here. But I can always type the command using my keyboard, which is much easier for me. So when I do slice, I'm going to select enter. First select the 3D model, then enter again. And now you have so many options. Mainly I use 3 points, which is the easiest for me. So what you need to do, you have to select 2 points on one surface, and the last point is going to be one other surface. So how can we select this? For example, I'm going to select the first point in this line, the second point in this line, and the third point must be in a different direction, like perpendicular to the 2 points that you have already selected. So I'm going to select this point and then enter. So now, as we can see, we have now 2 objects, and we separated them, and we can keep them. We can keep both elements for both 3D models if you want to use this one, or you can just simply delete it. Let's assume we need to bring this I-beam now. I'm trying to form a 2D frame, but it's kind of not realistic. But let's assume that I want to select this I-beam, and then I need to rotate this beam. Now I will explain some about rotation commands for the 3D models. Let's assume we have this beam and I want to switch it to face, the slice here, the slice cut need to face the other slice cut from here. So when I select this model, I cannot simply use rotation command because rotation works only in 2D. So I'm gonna select 3D rotate command, and I'm gonna select this element or whatever you wanna select. Then you click enter. Then you have 3 circles here, as we can see. One circle will rotate your element about Y direction, the other one will rotate about X, and the last one about Z. So you can see from the circles, they have different colors, but we can know that each circle represents one direction. What I'm planning to do, I want to flip this I-beam like 100 degrees, 180 degrees. So I'm going to select this circle, and then I can just simply switch it like this, or I can just input the angle that I want. As we can see now, I switched my beam. Both beams are facing each other. So now if I want to connect these 2 beams to form a frame, I'm gonna do another cut at the end. So let's select this beam, make it this side, and select this beam. So I wanna rotate this beam horizontally so it can connect this head to this head. So I'm gonna select it again, and then 3D rotation. So when I select one of these circles, it will rotate the beam the way I want. So I'm going to select the green circle. As we can see, we can just make it 90 degrees, for example. 90 degrees is working for me, which is what I want. So now I will move this I-beam from the corner, let's say from this corner to top I-beam corner. As we can see, they are completely matching each other because they are 45 degrees. Just to differentiate between the horizontal and vertical elements, I'm gonna just switch the color of this I-beam like for a while, and then I'm gonna bring it back. The problem now, I need to do another slice for this I-beam, but I want to make it 45 degrees so it will match this end. I know steel is not fabricated usually like this, but I'm just trying to apply some commands to this frame regarding to the actual framing system. So I'm still working on front. I can go back to wall, doesn't matter. What matters when you work with 2D. When you work with 2D drawings into your faces, the 3D models, you have to take care of the direction you are working in, which will make it easy for you to deal with 2D drawings within 3D interface. So I'm gonna keep it into wall, but I will bring it back to front so I can draw another line here as we did before. I'm gonna draw this line, and then I'm gonna rotate it. Now we can use the normal rotation command because I don't care about 3D rotation. I just wanna rotate into this face, which is the front one. So I'm gonna rotate this line with 45 degrees. Let's move it again. But as we can see, I don't want to do a cut here. If I cut like this, they will not match. So I need to flip this line. I can simply use the mirror command, which will work for me, or I can simply use the rotation command by, I think 180 degrees will work for me. No, it's gonna be 90 degrees. Rotation, 90 degrees. I can again move it to the corner like this, and then I can do slice again, slice. So I'm gonna select this element and select the first point, second point, and third point. Again, I'm gonna delete this part, I don't need it. then I will move this frame from this corner to this corner. And now we form this 3D frame. I know it's not the right frame, but I'm just showing some commands. I will establish like some complicated setups. For example, I'm planning to do this frame with all details, with making the bolts, the stiffeners, the wool, how to do different colors, how to show your drawing with this actual color or textures. But for now, this is just the simplest model I have ever made, but we can. Now I can talk about these options for viewing your drawing. So the conceptual, you normally will show you this, which gives you an idea about your dimensions and colors. The realistic is the most accurate one. I can hide the grid so I can see the model correctly. You can always show the grid as you see by clicking. So that was the third option, which is realistic, and we can do the shaded one. You can show the shades, and with edges, actually I like this one because it can show you the real topography or the real grooves or anything that you have in your shape. But it's not clear yet. I'm gonna show it when printing, which will make it very clear. One option here is the sketchy one. I think I'm gonna switch into the white color so it may be more clear. So I'm gonna switch into white color so it will be more clear. As we can see here, we can change the colors, the background color into white, so we can see now the sketchy one, how it look like, and this one which show you what is inside your 3D model. But I'd prefer to use the shaded or shaded with edges because edges are important sometimes to show. The realistic one is the best. I mean, when printing, it's gonna be more clear. So let's say I'm gonna print this one. If I preview this, it's gonna show me the wireframe. But from here, I can always change. I can like switch. For example, the sketchy one, we can see how the sketchy will look like. Usually, we don't use the sketchy at all. So I would prefer using the realistic or shaded with edges, as we can see. I'm gonna talk about the resolution and the image size, I mean the PDF size, all of this just once we have done like more advanced models. This option, the shaded with edges, as we can see, this is the model that we want. So those are the printing options. I'm gonna come back to this, but I just mentioned the kind of views that we can use to show our 3D model. So that was a brief introduction and basic commands for AutoCAD 3D.